Hello, this is Dan Hawes from Graduate Recruitment Bureau. Welcome to Series 2 of Student Diaries, our monthly podcast where we interview 3 students at Sussex University. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, I'm back here at University of Sussex, delighted to welcome our new addition to the Student Diaries podcast. I'll get her to introduce herself and explain a little bit about what she's been doing in the last month. Over to you.
Thank you. I'm Anastasia and I am studying international relations and anthropology. Well, I guess the last month or so, I guess it's just been focused more on acclimatizing to this new environment. So the last 2 years I was out of university, just came back. I was previously studying law, but it's a very long story. Changed my degree. And yeah, so the last few weeks, what I've kind of been trying to do is partly working out how to, again, adapt and effectively, I guess, take notes, work, because again, I haven't been in university or education for so long. So I've been going to note-taking classes, developing study groups with different people I've met, just so I feel a little bit more centered. I'm grounded at university at the moment. I guess in doing so as well, I felt a little bit out of place, kind of a sense of imposter syndrome.
Really?
Just partly, like I said, 2 years not writing essays, not being able to familiarize myself with everything as quickly as I would like. So partly focusing on education, I'm also trying to, I guess, protect my mental well-being as well. So I've started doing a little bit more of things like yoga that I wasn't doing before. So adding that to my routine on Fridays. Doing sport. I did start doing rugby, which is very interesting. It was really good fun.
Right.
Had to stop that a little bit.
Yep.
Didn't kind of align with my timetable.
Right.
So rugby, yoga, been doing dance and running. Again, just so I feel a little bit more rooted because of deadlines and essay writing and everything else. It's a lot. But I'm sure a lot of people are going through the same thing.
Well, you know what? It's a huge transition from A-levels to university, let alone having 2 years out, so to speak. So it's interesting you made the decision to come back. And so if we could find out a little bit more about, maybe firstly, why you chose this degree over law. How did you arrive at that particular decision and this uni?
Right. So the first year I was out, it wasn't out, not necessarily of my own accord. It was to do with, I've lived here basically 15 years of my life, but then having to go through the process of staying in the country. So I worked for that year and then I wasn't actually meant to come to University of Sussex last year when I was doing my degree, but the university were kind enough to said, just come along whilst you're doing that. So I was here for essentially, I think 2-3 months before I had to leave again. Complicated story. Okay. So I was actually commuting from London every day for 3 months. I'd be up at 6 a.m, try to catch the train, get to my classes. Did take its toll on me, but I was so adamant that I had to be there. I wanted to do well. And my department were great for that. But I did realize within the first, I think, month or so, I wasn't sure if it was external factors that were playing a part in why I wasn't enjoying my course. But I did come finally to the decision that it's not what I expected, actually. I was enjoying criminology more than law, and I'd been preparing for law for so long. So I guess that was the silver lining in that. It was just kind of, I guess my thought process was really, I didn't need law for what I wanted to do, and it wasn't my main interest, I think. So within those 2 years being out of education, I'd actually grown as an individual, and then my focus had turned somewhere else. Like I was more interested in more, I guess, global affairs, which relates to international relations and why things are the way they are and what are these political powers and how do they play into certain things I'm interested in, because the end goal is to get into some area of development, really. So I ended up doing international relations, and it just happened that a lot of the stuff I was reading related to anthropology as well. So now I'm doing anthropology at University of Sussex. But why I stayed here and still switched, found out that the department is actually, I think it's number 1 in the world, international relations. So
Right.
I have access to great leaders in the field, and the course is just really interesting and kind of relates to a lot of the things I believe, and then just opens my eyes to a lot of things I probably wouldn't have grasped on my own. So it's a much better fit.
Good. Because many people can sleepwalk into their degree, pop out the other end, and on reflection, they maybe think that wasn't quite right for them, or it hasn't prepared them, rather, for the career that they need to go into. So for you to have that realization after 3 months, and I imagine the commute from home didn't help, certainly in terms of laying roots, like you alluded to before, because you're out of the campus environment, won't have helped. So that's great. You've made that adjustment, and you're now on the right path. So better that than ignoring it and soldiering on and spending a lot of money. Let's face it, and time into something that your heart really isn't into.
Yeah.
So this course is meeting your expectations now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how does your typical timetable look over the last month?
I wouldn't say I have a lot of contact hours. I think I'm luckier than many other people.
Okay.
It is just more so the content. It's very hard would be an understatement, but it's university. So it's just very dense. And again, it's just about familiar. I can never say that word.
Familiarize.
Thank you. Myself with how to kind of go about with breaking down the content, so I'm able to get what the author is trying to convey, as well as critically engaging with it. So I with anthropology don't really get much of that. It's low contact hours, but I'm very familiar with it. It's very similar to things I've done before, so sociology, and I did classics as well. So you have elements in there. Whereas with international relations, it's just very, very heavy content, but interesting. So I think over the next few months, it's just about being able to discern which is what part of the text is really important, what isn't, and then getting help in order to kind of break everything down.
Okay, so you're in your first year, first month. So we talked about the transition and settling in. It sounds like you are settled in, given that you had some experience of being here earlier. So that helps you hit the ground running, so to speak. And now everything that's on offer for you, you talked about rugby, yoga, and all these other extracurricular activities. What are you prioritizing at the moment?
I think the mistake was prioritizing work over everything else, which is
Right.
what I was doing for the first few months, just because of nerves and anxiety.
Enthusiasm.
And enthusiasm, which is what I'm still feeling. But now I've kind of just come to the realization that I actually need to do things outside of that, because I will regret it, obviously. So hence the yoga and rugby. I've started going to more talks that university offers. So our department offers different talks from the lecturers and different speakers. So I went to one on global development and optimism, or in that particular field, and what the lecturer, I believe, is doing in, China, Africa, and what they do. There was a new talk yesterday as well on white optimism and how that relates to colonialism and development. So even though I'm not there yet in terms of where I want to be, which is the end goal, there are so many different opportunities for myself. I'm in the middle of writing an application in hopes that I can go on a trek to Pakistan and then kind of see what that's like, and just kind of get a different understanding of the government and everything else over there.
Wow. So how does that trip to Pakistan work?
So we essentially, I believe we have to write an essay on why we should be able to go, how this would benefit us and our course and everything else. Like I said, so I want to go into development, I believe anyway. So going to Pakistan, because I don't know too much. I don't think a lot of people know a lot. So you all often have a preconceived notion about how certain governments or certain people function, because you're constantly seeing it in, Western media. So I want to kind of step outside of that and see what they would say and how that kind of differs to what my current understanding is of the,
I mean, and that experience will hopefully sort of enrich your studying.
Yeah.
You've got that context going on in the background. Brilliant. Well, we're going to find out way more about you over the course of this Series 2 podcast. So it's lovely to meet you, Anastasia, and we'll look forward to checking in next month.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. We're back here with Sarah for our Series 2 Student Diaries. She's now moved up a year, and we're going to find out a little bit more about what she's been up to in the last month. So I'll get Sarah to introduce herself first of all again.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm doing second year neuroscience and cognitive science at Sussex. Yeah.
Excellent. How's it going?
Good. I changed from last year's topic. So last year I was doing psychology with neuro, and I've dropped the psychology and go straight with neuro and cognitive because of employment prospects, I guess. Over the summer I studied in New York, and I met a chap that does kind of international-based research into kind of global development, mental health, and feeds into terrorism and anti-extremists. And to go into that area of research, the new course fitted that better. So I just kind of abandoned ship with psychology over summer and just decided to do something different.
And that's easy to do, is it?
Fairly easy. I was just kind of fill out a form, ask my previous academic advisor for a recommendation to say I could do it without having to go back a year, or rather redo first year, and then all the paperwork was done before I came.
So you are in the second year still though,
Yeah.
so you don't have to redo the first year. Interesting. So that summer away really opened your eyes to different things by the sounds of it, and particularly looking long term, how this change in your degree would put you in a stronger position. What was it particularly that really made you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Mostly the prospect of there being kind of tens of thousands of other students who do psychology with a different pathway, and the number of people that do neuroscience with cognitive is so much smaller. I can skip a master's and go straight to a PhD, and from there do research more in detail and have a better understanding of the field without having to learn on the job. I can kind of get the theoretical understanding of possible research and do it alongside studying, so I can hopefully miss out on a lot of mistreatment that goes on with new research and that kind of area of work. Is the plan. Whether it works or not is a different thing.
Yeah, sounds good. And how much more different is this course? Are there fewer students, more, or is the workload greater or less?
So the numbers of students doing my course specifically is a lot smaller than with psychology and neuroscience, but the course is basically an amalgamation of different modules that lots of schools share. So I do like neuroscience with zoologists and medics and things like that, but then I do cognitive science with psychology students and a few people doing computer science. Then I do philosophy of cognitive science with computer scientists, artificial intelligence, geneticists. So you overlap with a lot of different schools without really having your own core cohort lectures, which I quite like.
Wow, the variety of all those different subjects, makes it maybe more interesting, and particularly on the philosophy and cognitive science, seeping into AI and machine learning and things like that is going to be, potentially really interesting area, and it's going to touch on all our lives. So sounds like a great move. Apart from that, you always have other things going on. So you've just come from the gym. Are you doing other stuff outside of?
So last year I mentioned how I was elected as women's officer. So this year it's been probably full flow. I got back to uni a little bit before term started to set up Free Wednesdays a bit more strongly. So we've got slightly new branding where we give out free sanitary items, drug testing kits, STD kits, pregnancy tests, and we're using it as a bit of a welfare drop-in and an area where students can come and present their campaigns. Any charities can come in and talk to the students. But previously it was not very sustainable in terms of products that we gave. But I've been liaising with quite large businesses like Mooncup, Modibody, Dame, who's run by a pair of Sussex alumni, about getting discounted items that we can give to students that's sustainable. It's like period pants, moon cups, reusable applicators for tampons. That's just like, it's really good because Sussex has been known for being such a green university. We're one of the only green constituencies, so
Yes.
being able to ensure the student body can like live their lives as green as possible is really good.
Fantastic.
It's got growing volunteers throughout it, and we've had pavilions come in and do weekly drug testing, drop-ins, and talks about mental health and effects of drugs, and they're getting kind of regulars that come in, and we're understanding the drug scene a lot better, so we're able to feed into the Students' Union and the police about what the drug scene is in a way that hasn't really been done recently, which is a very good point of contact, I think, which has been really fun.
Awesome. So in order to broaden the message, how did you go about that? Presumably you at the Freshers' Fair and
So
things like that? No?
I wasn't at the Freshers' Fair. I was busy at Freshers working with the university, so it's just been through social media and talking to people, just kind of going out with my women's officer hoodie and lanyard and being like, hey, have you heard of Free Wednesdays? This is what we do. Putting posters up in all the bathrooms, tiny little like information leaflets in seminar rooms, libraries, and a lot of just asking my friends to tell their friends and their friends to tell their friends.
Great.
And that's got a lot more international students in as well, because normally it's just domestic students that know about it, because periods are quite a common thing, more common to talk about here than in other countries. And it's been really lovely to see actually students who would normally not be comfortable talking about it come, and I'm like, yo, have you heard about all of these things? And it's a really good point of interaction and education.
Brilliant. Long may that continue.
Definitely.
And extremely worthwhile getting involved, like you say, with the number of international students here, introducing them to things like that and educating them. You know, maybe they'll go back to their country and, you know, spread the word even further. So it's great we're in this green constituency, and things and initiatives like this are supported. Apart from that, you always have other things going on.
I was planning 16 days for activism, which is a UN every year kind of thing that goes on. It started off as being to end violence against women, and since then it's changed to gender-based violence, and now it's even broader to just be kind of like healthy relationships, abuse, consent, all that kind of thing. So I've been planning a 16-day timetable of information, education, talks, nights out, quiz nights, things like that are all about raising money for local charities like Rise and Survivors Network to help deal with, kind of help victims get through what they've experienced. Also educate individuals on how to prevent things like sexual violence happening, and look beyond boundaries of kind of heteronormative relationships in the media, and seeing that LGBT groups are really vulnerable, sex workers are really vulnerable, and talking about things that aren't really spoken about on a big platform that have such a large presence, especially in Brighton, and making sure that the student body are aware and involved. It's kind of getting 100, 200 students mobilised to make a huge art piece in Library Square that survivors can write their stories on, and we can use as a conversation point, as well as smaller stalls just handing out sweets and having quick chats about what it is to be in a healthy relationship, what it is to not be in a healthy relationship, and setting up boundaries in friendships, because everything isn't just about your significant other. You meet so many people day to day, and it's looking out for those signs of toxicity where you can learn and adapt as a person to be really resilient in a potentially conflict-filled environment. But yeah, 16 days is a lot, and luckily, I say luckily, it's awful for a lot of students, but the UCU strikes have been announced, which are happening in 2 weeks, and that's conflicting with 16 days. So we're pushing that back in favour of making plans on how we can support students to deal with the fact that their lecturers and tutors probably aren't going to be there, getting through the picket lines, making sure that university is still accessible for individual disabilities, mental health. So it's kind of gone from full steam to 16 days to full steam of strike preparation, and making sure that the Students' Union makes decisions in a democratic way, and not just like, we're going to support the strikes and not consider student participation and voices.
Yeah.
But quick kind of right-hand turn into
Yeah.
that.
It's, previously, when you've faced setbacks like that, you found a way forward, because you're clearly obviously very passionate about that, and you've got some good people around you as well, so that's great. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if you do more of this when you leave university maybe.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully. Well, the way that I guess my like kind of passion project from this few days has been a new democratic system for the university. We currently just use referenda for student voices, but policy set out from 40 odd years ago says that you need a 2-week time. So we're currently writing up a whole separate method of taking student opinion and making decisions based on that, that's more casual and kind of goes beneath university management, so the SU can be more free in making decisions that represent the student body, which is a really exciting kind of rule breaky in a really lovely way of doing things, which has been really fun.
Good. Well, it's lovely to catch up with you, and we're going to look forward to checking in with you again next month. Sarah, thank you very much. I'm now here with Tor, and we're going to find out a little bit more about what she's been up to in the last month. So I'll just get her to introduce herself once more for our new Series 2 Student Diaries. Over to you.
So hi, I'm Tor and I am studying psychology, but I'm in my placement year, so I'm in between year 2 and 3.
Okay, and how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. It's very different to uni because we have kind of different assignments. So obviously we've got the working assignments. So I'm doing a placement in the NHS with CAMS, and I'm focusing on autism and participation.
Okay.
So that is very different to kind of uni life, particularly autism, because we didn't learn anything about autism in year 1 or 2. And I was actually reading an article this morning that was saying about how autism is missed, like they just don't teach it until at medical school either.
Right.
So they're trying to introduce a new program to teach year 3 and 4 medical students about autism because it's a really big thing and it's just getting missed.
Right, okay.
So that's been really interesting.
Yeah. And how long are you going to be doing that for?
So it's basically a whole year.
Right.
Yeah, a whole year.
Okay. And I remember you applied for quite a few placements,
Yes.
opportunities. This is the one that you wanted?
Yes,
Yeah.
so I'm enjoying it. I was actually listening to the podcast from this time last year.
Yeah.
And I remember saying that I was kind of looking at placements and trying to get into clinical psychology.
Yeah.
Since starting my placement, I've realised that I want to do health psychology.
Right.
So that's kind of modified my plan.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really hard to find stuff about it because it's a new field. So there's literally nothing about it, and there's not like an established kind of workforce. But what it is, it's working with people who have already got health conditions. So anything from diabetes to multiple sclerosis to liver failure or chronic pain or just medically unexplained symptoms, and looking at it from a psychological perspective.
Right.
And obviously, as we are an aging population and we are learning to treat things like diabetes and learning to kind of manage and live with cancers, that's going to be more of a thing, because in the past people would have just died without like insulin, and now they're living but having to inject themselves like 6 times a day.
Wow.
So it's really interesting and really kind of new and innovative.
Okay. And is that placement based in Brighton then?
It's based in Eastbourne.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm living by myself in a flat in Eastbourne, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Again, different to student life, kind of feel more of an adult and more settled. And yeah, it's so different to uni, but yeah, I recommend it.
Sure. And this is paid?
No, it's unpaid.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so NHS don't pay for placements, and most psychology placements are unpaid because they just are. So yeah, we pay £2,000 tuition fees.
Yeah.
They say it's an admin fee for the courtesy of keeping you on the university books. So yeah, that has been paid, and then you're entitled to student finance if your placement is unpaid.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of a bit of a shock to quite a few people that you're doing 20 to 35 hours a week and it's unpaid.
It is. Does the student finance coffers cover your living? Accommodation?
So for my friends, it doesn't. It turned out that for all three of them, their student finance has decreased, even though nothing has changed. They're still living independently. So they were quite confused. Luckily, I've got enough finance, so I'm fine. But yeah, it's quite strange. And another weird thing is that the uni recently, everyone on a placement year, because I know about 20 people on a placement year, we all got emails yesterday to say that our student finance for tuition fees hadn't been paid.
Right.
And they kind of, quite threatening, they say, oh, we're going to withdraw your student, your
Registration.
that's it. And you can't access the library and you won't be able to do anything. And then to my friend who's an international student, they said that they'll call immigration to say that you're no longer allowed to be here. And the thing is, this is happening to literally everyone on a placement year, and we've all paid. So for my friend, it was quite a shock because he went into a panic thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to leave the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit strange.
It is. I guess the alternative, if it really comes to it, you'd have to come back to uni to complete the year and not do the placement.
Yeah. But student finance have agreed and they've paid the money. It's just that the uni say that you haven't paid.
Right, okay.
And you can't pick up. It's too far into the year now. So you would have to defer by a year.
Oh, I see.
And I don't know what deferring costs and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's worth sticking out because having a placement ideally paid, or in your case, unpaid, will add value to your CV. And obviously, you're going into a relatively new area, so you're kind of pioneering that. And I think that will stand out even more on your CV. So if you can, stick at it, and all your other colleagues on the course. It'd be certainly worthwhile in the long run, but it's unfortunate that there isn't, more finances or things to make it easier.
Yeah.
Apart from that, what have you been up to for fun?
So I was actually talking with my friends, and even though we're on a placement year, so we're further away, we seem to be meeting up more. So I suppose instead of us going to lectures together and seminars and studying, we're actually doing fun things.
Yeah.
So we've been going to London, they've come down to the beach to see me, we've gone out, and it's just it's nicer because you're kind of making an effort. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time with friends. I've been tutoring. So yeah, I've got so many pupils now and they're all great. Really enjoying that. So yeah, my youngest is 9 and my oldest is 16. So yeah, it's really enjoyable.
Good.
And then I've also been going to the gym, just kind of getting exercise and exploring Eastbourne because it is quite different to Brighton and it's enjoyable. And there are markets. I love markets. And they have Christmas markets as well. So I'm really excited for that.
Very good. Sounds excellent. Good. Well, a new year for you, and it's already unfolding nicely, and you're clearly very into what you're doing, which is great to see. And we'll look forward to checking in with you this time next month.
Great. See you then.
Thank you very much.
So I hope you enjoyed this month's update. Please tune in next month and find out what Anastasia, Sarah and Tor are up to at Sussex University. Thank you.